We out here.
I invited you to co-host.
Oh.
GM Roundtabloooors.
Roundtable. I'm not seeing that co-host request quite yet. Maybe double tap that bad boy. Ah, there it is.
That was the speak, but we just do it again.
All right, we out here. Crier. Trying to think. I muted you on Rivers. Oh, turn on your mic on Spaces on the NRN account. Oh, did you do it from your phone and not the desktop client? Oh, hold up.
Not yet, so I'll just. All right. Yep.
Maybe join the space with Crier account.
Good. Bam! There we go.
And I threw it on the ground.
Now it's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, now we're crispy.
Now we're crispy.
Now we're cooking with geish. You know.
So,
GM,
everybody, Roundtabloooors, episode 4. We're talking real world assets and crypto pump.
We're going to pump. Go to pump.
You up.
All the way.
So,
dude,
were you exposed for this pump, my guy?
What, dude? Of course not. Why would I do anything like that? You know?
Why would I like to make money?
That's crazy. That's crazy. Talk, I'm priming myself for the macro pump, right? That's I'm laying down the foundation. 2024, 2025. I'll be ready, you know.
Be ready, be deep.
Yeah, I'll have a bunch of tokenized Rolexes, you know, on loan. I mean, I'm gonna be got derivatives on derivatives. It's gonna be wild.
You're just prepped only for the NFTs. You're not prepped for the crypto.
No. I'll be crypto adjacent, of course.
Okay, there you go.
No, of course. I'll be ready. How about you? I mean, I'm sure you have some exposure.
I didn't have any. I mean, just in general, my net worth is all crypto. So, like, I'm at the whims of the crypto gods.
Yes, your net worth is up because because the savings, the 401k, the Roth IRA.
Yeah, it's only crypto. Yeah, so that was nice, but it's very double-edged sword because when it's down, it's down. But the more years you put into it, it's the farther away from your starting.
Yeah, you know what is it? Michael Saylor's having a good time. Everyone's like, man, that guy was right. He's been DCAing.
Yeah, everyone's like, this guy's an idiot, bro.
He's been DCAing this whole time. What an incredible strategy.
Like, nah, I'm up in less than less than
2 years. I was dying. Speaking though of Bitcoin, though, I was dying at the BlockFi announcement. They're like, hey, what do you know?
We're back.
We're solving, you know? What's good?
Yeah, give us a little bit.
FTX is like, we're exploring coming back too. You guys good?
You guys good out here? But yeah, 1,000x leveraged to Rollbit with all leftover customer funds.
Oh my gosh.
Definitely hit this one.
Yeah. Wild. But on a broader thing, I know you've been around the block a few times. How does it feel to you? Does it feel like it's the start of something, quote unquote, bull trap?
To me, yeah. Me personally, I am not doing any leverage stuff yet. On the previous cycle in 2019, this is when I lost like 80 ETH leveraging money. So like it was like it pumped from like 80 or 70, like low 70s to 350. And I started putting it in to leverage around probably about 150.
Okay.
And I was like, it's not going back near this. And then it went down to 80. So me personally, I'm not doing any leverage. I mean, like I said, I'm massively exposed with spot and stuff like that. But I would like to see some hangout in this range. But saying that, Bitcoin personally, I think is crushing it. So if you look at the last time that this happened, dominance went from 50 to 72%. So people who don't really realize how everyone's like, oh, it's so down, it's so down. You know, alts generally still have a lot of bleed, just if you're looking at the previous cycle, right? So, you know, everything's different. It's always different. It's a new beast. We've never been in a recession with Bitcoin ever, you know. So, distance of cryptocurrency has only been in a macro economic bull market.
Are you referring to like flight to quality kind of thing?
I'm just saying, yeah, it's never been tested, and this is the first real test. Is it a hedge, or is it a, you know, super volatile tech stock, you know, type picture? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But it's really is the true test of whether this is the gold in the situation, or is it the people still don't think know what it is or know what about it enough to make it a viable hedge, right? People don't believe in it enough to be like, will be safe enough for me to hold.
Yeah. You know, I'm certainly no macroeconomic expert, but just from my own, you know, my own lived experience. This is always interesting to me because my folks have been in wealth management for my entire life. So just hearing the kind of trends that go on amongst those kind of folks, and I always kind of poke around and be like, yeah, what's the sense about crypto, you know, in the wealth management world, you know? And my folks are just like, nah, like they're like and they're not even against it necessarily. They're really not. Like they're open-minded. They have like futurists and like technologists like come in and do these presentations to educate them all the time. Kind of like, here's what's coming around the bend. Like, here's the stuff to pay attention to. And they're always kind of like, okay. But from the actual institutional side, like this is the line verbatim I've heard. Like they'll basically get a call every once in a while, and one of their wealth management clients will be like, what the hell is this Coinbase wire transfer, son of a bitch? Like, and they're just like, what is he doing out there? Like, and it's kind of like they view it like the Wild West. And so I see, you know, stuff like, you know, maybe this potential ETF or something like that. If that actually goes through, I think what I'm basically getting at is like, it's not even on the radar. Like people think like, oh, the institutions are coming with the ETFs, but as far as the like everyday average institutions, it's not even on the radar yet.
Not on the radar yet. And I don't think it will be. Like, you know, we've seen it with gold. You know, it took, you know, I will say long term buying gold when the ETF was released in 2004, it never went below that price again. So that, you know, that's good. You know, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But instantly just ripping out of the gate is not a thing with the gold. It took 2 years for it to go up like 70%, which is still incredible returns. But what I'm saying is, like, people who are thinking like, oh yeah, we're going right back to 70,000 as soon as this ETF approves, and you know, it's over from there. We're going 100K.
Now,
I don't think that's the case.
Here's an interesting thought. I remember
amazing, but I don't think
I remember kind of during COVID, there was this thing. I had some of this go on with my friends, and this is more of like an observed trend. People started buying toys because they had more disposable income. They weren't spending it on vacations, things like that. That was like this trend that people saw. People were buying boats, quads, RTV, you know, ATVs, that old chestnut.
All the outside stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, let's go outside. But I'm wondering now, at least with the US specifically, and I'm like, you know, correlation, causation, whatever. Who knows if this is even remotely related? But I just know a lot of people aren't looking to purchase homes, specifically young people, because of interest rates, things like that, potentially low inventory. And so do they start to build up like nest eggs that they're either just sit on waiting to buy their next home in, X amount of years, or do you think some of that income starts to make its way back into the economy?
I personally think that it's not that. I mean, I think that the current rate of what inflation is at, I don't think a lot of people have savings. I mean,
fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
People are pretty much living. The average person is living paycheck to paycheck. For sure.
No, you're 100% right. That are the majority of people accumulating this wealth. Probably
people that are the young, wealthy, no kids and stuff like that are out of the ordinary. I mean, I think trends that you've seen on what they're looking to invest in and what they're actually doing. Crypto is high on the Zoomer radar.
So you're saying dinks are the demographic for crypto, double income, no kids.
Exactly. 100%.
Okay, let's get into something a little more tangible, other than the dink housing market crypto macro thesis. So
listen to that.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was real world. We got to rebrand that because it's just a tongue twister. Real world asset. RWAs. Real world assets. And
what's up, guys?
Yo, hey. Nate, do you have some commentary on our dink housing macro thesis?
I didn't get up quick enough, but you guys are talking inflation, buying toys. Have you guys heard of funflation?
No. Educate us.
Well, I probably should have done a little more research, but basically,
have you heard of it?
Our generation, whatever, the younger kids, we're living paycheck to paycheck, but we can't help ourselves with spending money on movies, fancy dinners. Yeah. So that will still kind of happen regardless because of what
that's
our
natural state.
So prices, now we have inflation. Now we also have to deal with funflation. So that's all I wanted to say.
All right.
Can't win, boys. And we also can't help ourselves. I mean, we want those fancy dinners. We want vacations. But yeah, man, funflation. Be on the lookout.
Funflation. All right. So if you're in a entertainment industry, maybe you don't have too much to be worried about,
Well, I know it's crazy. Like a lot of those places are still making money. I mean, the stock market's still strong is because we are consumers and we can't help it.
People are still buying $1,000 steaks at Miami clubs. It's happening.
No, I mean, there's definitely people who have the capital and have the money, but I think just as overall the longer that this plays out, the less money that people have, right? So people are used to paying these prices. They're not paying those prices anymore. Their paycheck is not up at all. It's down or, the same. So yeah, just over time, there's going to be a tighter string purse, right?
What we really need to do is become e-citizens of Estonia.
Yeah, I've looked into that.
Have you?
I have, yeah.
Okay, tell me a little. I know this is a total tangent.
Looked at a couple of places. I looked at Costa Rica. There's actually a new one that Vitalik just became a sigil citizen of.
Zuzalu. No, I'm just kidding.
It was like $280 or something like that. But you could pay in ETH.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, but what was the conclusion of your research on Estonia?
It was interesting. It looked like a pretty cool place. We pretty much I knocked it off the list just because of the location of where it was.
Fair.
And yeah, it's like not in a great. It's like right now would be a terrible time to be.
But you could be an e-citizen though, right? So how does that work?
Yeah, I didn't really actually. I was looking more into the actual just living there.
Living there, okay.
And that in Costa Rica. But yeah, I mean it was and Portugal.
For those who don't know, Estonia has advertised himself as the kind of network state of the future, where you can have e-citizens all over the globe, who may not necessarily even live there, but want to because all of their services are online, taxes, healthcare, things like that. It's an interesting
concept,
to be honest.
For sure.
It very much mirrors the network state idea.
Yeah, and talking about stuff like Baljai and the network state and how that's going to kind of come to fruition. I mean, we're all more and more digital as we, progress, right? So I do think it's an interesting concept for sure.
Yes.
What about you? What's your thoughts?
No, it's totally. I think the network state is probably more here than we give it credit for, if that makes sense. Like as ETH holders, as participants in crypto, in a way, we all already have these kind of aligned incentives, which I think that it's going to be interesting. I mean, I have ideas about tokenized healthcare records and things like that. I think you could have a tokenized insurance policy, which would kind of act like a network state, right? Like, can we get to a point where a network state could provide similar services as a nation state? Maybe.
For sure.
I don't know.
Or better, because they're pretty shit on that.
Or better. But part of how we do that is tokenizing our real world assets.
No, segue.
Segue. So for those of you who don't know, there's a bit of a movement, and I won't say it's a totally new movement because people are able to kind of trace this back historically. Like, oh, this is like this is like that.
Yeah.
But there's a popular movement right now about putting real world assets on chain, or at least like representing them on chain. You can think about things like house deeds, car notes, luxury goods like Rolex watches, even down to things like Pokemon cards. There's a multitude of services that are offering the ability to tokenize, and then people are trading these tokens on, marketplaces, just like any other NFT. And I think it's super interesting. Crier, what's been your kind of exposure to this so far?
I mean, I haven't done any like real world assets. I mean, we've done a little bit of the Pokemon stuff. A lot of the internet people are big into the Pokemon cards. We have Grow and Soft and Frankie Dukes have been using Courtyard to buy packs that are pretty much guaranteed by them, Brinks and Courtyard company as storage, and then you are owning the NFT that's redeemable for the physical card, or you can just trade that NFT for value or lend it, just how we're talking about with stuff like Arcade or other platforms. We're able to bring in to create loans that are decentralized. Any person can back that loan. If there's a big Pokemon guy who's like, that card's worth $8,000, they only want 6. Like, if they default on this loan, I'm going to get a $2,000 profit. So it's worth it to me to take this loan on, right? So I do think that's a really interesting concept, right? Because I think most of the time when you have a collectible, it's like, oh yeah, it's worth this much, but like you can't ever.
What's the liquidity? Yeah,
you can't. Well, I mean, until you actually sell it, it has some value, actual value to you, versus like, well, saving, personal value, whatever like that. But like, real world value is zero until it actually makes a sale, right? So shoes and Pokemon cards, collectibles, watches, anything that stuff is just a net deficit until you're able to use it. And that's one of the things that like ultra wealthy people do, especially with like paintings, right? Like they have I have a $160 million evaluated Monet piece, and I loan against it to buy whatever I want, and live off of it. Don't pay the taxes for it because it's a loan, and I have to pay myself back, right? So that kind of thing can now be unlocked with your, a collection of your $100 Pokemon cards. You got 7,000 $100 Pokemon cards. That's a lot of that's a lot of money. So like now they're able to be whoever wants to back it. It doesn't mean it's going to be guaranteed backed either. So you have to like shop around and see if someone actually wants to buy it from you. But it's better than zero chance of getting a loan or getting capital out of it, right? So I'm a really big fan of a platform like that, and I'm a really big fan of like just lending pools, right? So we brought in our Arcade, but they also have stuff like BendDAO and like probably, I don't know, there's probably like 15 of them now, but
quite a few.
Same thing is, if say you are, I like both sides of them at different times, right? So like, do I want to be lending my NFTs then I think that, say like the value of ETH is going to go down, or the value of, the just overall space is trending downwards. I'm going to take a loan against my NFTs, sell that ETH for USDC, and it's going to go down. And I'll be able to rebuy that ETH lower price, and then take out my picture, right? So then I actually did that with 3 doodles, and it worked out really well, right? So like it cost me nothing realistically. Like the actual interest of the thing was I want to say like less than 0.6 or something like that. So like over a 3-month period, and then I was able to get like additional like 7 or 8 ETH or something like that by doing that. So
yeah,
really interesting concept.
Yeah, if you're not in love with the actual like JPEG itself, you can hedge against the downside 100%.
Yeah,
like via lending. That's something that there's a company called Skillet, and they put out a guide about like
Skillet.
How to use lending to hedge against the downside. And it's like, if you borrow against the JPEG, it goes down. You keep the ETH, default on the JPEG, and you lose nothing, or you lose less.
Well, I mean that too, though. Like personally, I think that's kind of a shitty way to do it, right? Because you're like, I have the intention of buying them back usually.
Yes.
Like I would say is a shittier outcome versus like, because then you're relying on the generosity of other people realistically. Like at that point, like I know you get a small fee, but it's also like, depends on the asset. Some of these are like very illiquid. So we're in that fine balance of we're trying to tune to which collections are valuable enough to keep their value, right? So that's what BendDAO is, right? Like, so say they allow like apes, doodles, Moonbird, like there's probably like 15 that they allow, right?
Right.
Some of them they've taken away, right? So they actually got rid of I think Azuki, and then they got rid. I don't think they have gotten rid of doodles, but realistically, they probably should have got rid of doodles, because people were able to take loans at like 15 ETH doodles. That's what I did it. And now they're like 1.5. So like, if you didn't pay for it or whatever, it got liquidated at like a way lower price. So it kind of probably didn't do a service to the people who were actually lending their ETH to the pool, right? So there's 2 sides of that. There's the pool of people who are saying, I believe in NFTs. I rather risk that ETH to a little bit more yield, right? So with their lending platform, I'm going to put in 10 ETH at, and I'm guaranteed, not guaranteed, but like at the current rates, variable rates are like 20%, versus like staking, you're going to get like 4.5,
right?
4.3, something like that. So, it's a bigger risk, but if you believe in NFTs and the value that they hold over time, and these people aren't going to all default, essentially you can get a lot more of yield versus the downside if you believe in NFTs. And I think we're coming through that market well, right? Like we've been hovering around these same prices for a long time. I personally don't think there's a lot left downward movement on like large ETH NFTs, just because there's just so few.
Sure.
The people who are left that haven't sold now probably don't need the money anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between, it could slowly wean out, like we're talking about the inflation and stuff like that, but like realistically, there's not that many people that left that are like, yeah, I'm selling here at this low ass price. Right. Like, I'd rather just like hold it. So because I think it's going to do better than the future.
Yeah,
because,
you get,
these companies are building stuff, they're doing things, the ones that are still valuable.
Yeah, you get the sense like at like doodles at like 1.1 or whatever, like most people like, probably capitulated at that point, maybe. Like, I think that's the idea.
Pretty fair. And if it isn't, then
it's going to zero.
It's going to go to like
it's like $50.
Like, it's not going to go. It's the risk reward of them, I think, is getting very much lowered here, just because the risk is probably like an additional like 30% downside, with a possibility of like,
sure,
a huge upside realistically. Like, if they come back with any sort of volume. And I think people, a lot of crypto people hated on NFTs Just the way that I think the traditional world hated on crypto, right? Like we were seen as like the, oh, why you needed these dumb pictures and blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, people like to flex online. That's the only way to show that you have money or whatever, I guess, or clout or whatever reputation. Like if you're coming in the space with zero and you buy a CryptoPunk and you want to have a platform, like you can have a platform in like probably like 10 good posts. Like if you post nothing but 10 really good posts with a new identity and do that stuff, I think you could like level up very quickly versus something like, just a small one that just has no, I think there's a big difference between those two things. So like, if you're trying to end, like you could use it to jumpstart it and then get rid of it. Right. Also, like there's a lot of,
rebranding.
Look at, rebranding. Yeah, exactly. But like we pictured that, like, so that was a good like analogy for that. It was like Wob from Sappy Seals. He had like maybe like 5,000 or 6,000 followers. I know this was during the bull market when everyone was looking at Twitter and doing that stuff, but he used Nate's ape for clout for like 3 months, and he ended up with like 40 or 50,000 followers.
Oh, that's really funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's just
can
like,
I use your ape?
yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, I don't, that velocity or would not have been the same. Like he was, doing the ape, ape follow ape stuff and doing, just like all the bullshit nonsense. But like he leveraged that to make a larger platform for himself. So I think that's one of the reasons that they have kind of gained their, I mean, they're not doing fantastic, but they've stayed in the foothold, right?
Sure.
Like they've but I think that has a lot to do with it, right?
They're in the arena, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. They're participating.
And I think, as far as that's a great kind of take on like the broader NFT thesis, I think going back a little bit, you talked about social signaling, you talk about flexing, and that's where I'm like, yeah, I think that's where maybe some of this like RWA stuff comes in. And for those listening, like it's not as crazy as it sounds. They're like, oh, why would you want a digital twin of your physical item that you could throw around on exchanges? I'm like, there is actually an established product market fit. Now, I don't know the numbers on like how successful this is, but like GOAT, which is similar to StockX, if you're not familiar, has a vaulting service. So you can buy a sneaker and you could never take delivery of that sneaker. They can keep it in their vault, and then you can relist that on their marketplace, right? So it's an NFT. You know what I mean?
Drop shipping. They drop ship, like essentially, like for
it's
essentially as an NFT.
Yeah, I mean it's just not on chain. You know what I mean? It's just a digital representation of this physical good that you can transact with online in a walled garden, as opposed to on the open marketplace. And that's essentially what all this stuff is doing.
Very true. And like the same thing, like Courtyard has their own marketplace. They pick the stuff that they want to kind of, they don't pick it, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's only a certain amount of people looking there.
Right.
Versus me going to OpenSea and listing it on OpenSea under, Pokemon, I think is a lot bigger view. A lot of more people are going to, if they search Pokemon on OpenSea and they come up with Courtyard or 3 different products that are doing that.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot more exposure versus like, I've never heard of Courtyard. I've never heard of this. I've never heard of any of these things versus like me just typing Pokemon and the largest NFT thing is going to bring up results. Right. So, I do think that there's it's a big difference. Like the amount, just think of like eBay. Like if it's just like all the people are looking on eBay for their items like that. What if it could just be all items listed for sale could be eBay, right? Like in the world, essentially. Like if you want to have, they could just be an NFT aggregator on all of these items that are physically represented can still be sold, but it just aggregates every listed item across, 20 different platforms, right? So you have a lot more, what they would for like liquidity / stock, right? They have way more stock if you're able to do it this way. And their market still does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's just not limited only to people who listed on eBay, right? Like we saw that greatly with, especially with NFTs, you're like, oh, I want a specific trade or something like that, blah, blah, blah. Those might not be for sale on OpenSea, but now we have stuff like Gem and Blur, or not Pro OpenSea or whatever. And then all these other companies, like Skillet, I think is also an aggregator that does all the floor listings, right? So you're able to pool from that giant pool and say, like, actually, this is the one I want, and I got a better price, right? So I do think that's something that makes it just global competition of items makes it more competitive, and I think it's a good move.
Well, and that's the thing is you get a better sense of true liquidity because it's global and instant liquidity. And I think because of the mechanics of DeFi, that's like NFT finance now is the kind of terminology here. It opens up a liquidity spectrum. Like before Beanie Babies, you know what I mean? Like
0 or 100%.
You had these Beanie Babies, and you were like, where do I sell them? eBay, I guess. I see there's a Beanie Baby listed for $100,000 on eBay. Does that mean that's how much mine is worth?
Mine is worth. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I have no idea. And so, but now we have this liquidity spectrum. You can see on chain what's bought and sold. You can see what's lent against, right? And like lending can have a more critical eye, right? Because someone could buy something as a collector. They don't give a fuck what it costs. They're just like, I want it. So is that even a true value? But then maybe if something gets lent against, someone has to be a little more critical per se. So
they know that it has value and it may be greater than what they're doing. That's why they're risking the loan, right? Like just like I was talking about the Pokemon player earlier that wanted, like they see a discrepancy in listing value of $2,000 that might be worth it to them to have on the risk of that loan.
But they also have a calculus for the downside. They're like, how much LTV, what kind of APR do I want to do? What do I feel comfortable? Where could I see it going? Right? Like down in a worst case scenario, right? As opposed to a collector who might be like, I'm never selling this, like ever, it doesn't matter. But that worldwide liquidity spectrum is really interesting. I think about stuff like we're talking about Pokemon cards, which, could be $5, $10, $50, $100, $10,000. But most recently, there's a company called Roofstock on Chain that put a mortgage on chain, and they put a house deed on, they put a house deed on chain, and then there was a mortgage on chain. So I think about global liquidity for mortgages, right? Like essentially in the US, all mortgages go back to the government, right? Like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, like they're all essentially backed by the government. We have specific rates because of the government.
What they do. Yeah.
And so what if there was a world where I could get a mortgage from somebody in Germany? If the EU is pumping, they're having a great time, they're not having any inflation, maybe they're going to offer 4% when the US government best they can do is 6.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point too, because like it's happening right now globally. China just announced that they're going to start turning the printers on. So as like 2 days ago. So already there's a lot of Chinese investors in US land. Same thing. Like I don't want to pay 8% for my mortgage. I can get money from anywhere in the world. Maybe now they're getting a ton of free money, just how we had gotten for the 2020. So what happens there for them? What happened there in the economy? Does their interest rate go down? Lending money is easy and free. What do they want to do with it? They probably would like to invest in something that's land or something that's viable versus something that's like free paper money, right? Like they want to put that paper money that's fake to work, right? So then you're looking on a global market of you're paying 8% interest is 8.5 or whatever is like the lowest possible rate you're getting right now. You could probably get one down to like 5 or something like that on a global competitive market,
right?
So yeah, great point for sure.
Yeah, and there's just so many interesting versions of how this plays out. And two, I think people get a bit like, oh, this is like so crazy. And I'm like, one of the big things that we saw recently with the kind of tech boom, that brought about the likes of like Google, Facebook, things like that. It was like industries that needed to be disrupted, right? That was the big term. I have a friend who works
taxis.
Like I have a friend who works in the mortgage industry, and I was asking him, I was like, okay, like how do deeds get tracked, right? Like how do the notes get tracked? And he said it's like, oh, it's called like the mortgage reporting system, and he's like, and it sucks.
1960s.
And
it's been changed.
Yeah. Banks don't tell them when they've changed their note, who owns this mortgage now. Cause like, mortgages are being bought up in big bundles by companies and moved to different companies and this, that, and the other. And it's like, and it's all, I'm exaggerating, but basically by facts, you know what I mean? Like it's just.
Well, I have a great story for this exact thing. So I bought a minivan for my family in 2020, great price. The company I bought it with, I can't remember, TD Finance is the company.
Okay.
A year into the thing, they started, because I had it on auto pay or whatever, just pay it monthly. They just started sending my checks back, and I'm like, what the hell? And I found out they had sent me the title to my car and thought I paid it all off, and they had the person in charge or whatever had paid off my entire loan, but like obviously fucked up because I didn't pay it off.
Yeah.
And they were just
actually yeah, there we go. All right, so the CEO of Vivi actually has a bounty out for the number one NFT of the Iron Man figure, like in Vivi, for $40,000. So if you pull that number one, you can literally just sell it for 40,000 to him. So we will be live streaming. We will be trying to pull that one of one, or the one and I'm very excited.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. Another, he didn't actually say that he would put a bounty on the number one figure, but unfortunately, because I told everyone that Funko fucks up all the time, Funko actually did not put the numbers on.
What the fuck?
Can you hear me over here? Hello?
RSG, can you hear me?
Hold up. What? All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yo.
Hello.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
What's the last thing I said?
Oh, don't worry about me. I was long gone, but I'm sure Crier could hear you.
I can't hear Crier now.
I bet the numbers on the
the numbers,
figures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Funko
Okay, good.
That's
the last thing I heard too.
So the figures, they don't have the numbers, so here we are. So it's actually pretty funny. I actually joined a VV Spaces with like over 100 people, and I always tell Crier, and we talk about this, like that's the one community we should probably tap into, and every time we try, we just don't get in. And I was just talking to them for like 30-45 minutes there. They're pretty aggressive on some things, but I had to like tell them, like, guys, listen, I get you love VV, but guess what? Funko this year has been probably the worst year for Funko. So please be cautious of what you're doing here and understand there's expectations of Funko. And there was some like mix up because a lot of people thought that the figures sold out in like under a minute, and then it lasted for 24 hours. And obviously this number thing, a lot of people are upset about. So we'll see how it goes. But it did sell out. Already on eBay, they're selling for double, if not triple the amount. So we'll see how it goes, but hopefully we get lucky today. I would love $40,000.
You're not gonna keep it?
Oh fuck no! I would sell it and then just buy one on eBay. Come on.
What's your price that would if you don't get anything good, like you're gonna keep anything else?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean.
So there's different rarities, right? There's like 4 or 5 rarities.
Yeah, I mean, if, you know what I mean. If I get like the second, or if I get like the rare one, there's only 50, and it's not the one, and someone offers me a couple G's, maybe even like a G, I'd be like, oh yeah, here you go, and then I just go buy another one for $150. So the regular.
It's kind of an interesting thing that people are doing now, and I think it correlates really well with NFTs because we saw Magic the Gathering do this with the ring card, right? So they've announced that they're doing the Marvel set now too. So Magic the Gathering is going into all these other ecosystems, and I think they're going to do really well because they did really well with the Lord of the Rings set. And again, they had a 1-of-1 card, which is sold to Post Malone for like $2.8 million. Pretty wild. And I think that concept of the 1-of-1, the singular type thing, I really do think that was kind of born from the NFT side of the collectibles, right? I think there was a lot of, there was definitely well after NFTs were kind of showcasing this, that they started doing this singular item and an entire pack type deal, right? So I do think that's something interesting to see. And it does add to the mystique of opening these packs. It gives something that look forward to on these things. And I know Funko's now taking over with how many total? 40? thousand, or what was it? What's
It's
the
only
total collect?
There's only 3,000. There's
Total?
1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, total. So 1,500 original, and the red are like the red and yellow, and then the rest are the secret rare variations of it.
Yeah. So they took the model that Vivi does exactly for their comics.
Well, it's Vivi, yeah.
I know. I'm just saying. I think they did the same thing for.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So 100%. I think that's a cool concept, and I think they'll probably do something similar with the Marvel side of the Magic the Gathering card, with the one of 101. I think
it'd be pretty cool.
I wanted to do my research just to make sure I wasn't gonna give away any trade secrets here. But there is a platform that's up and coming. I would recommend you check them out. It's called the Colony XYZ. So they're kind of positioning themselves to work in this kind of RWA digital physical collectible space, but they're debuting a new token called the ERC 721S, what they're calling the swap protocol. So essentially what RSG is describing, this bounty system, imagine if that was on chain, but tiered and scaled, right? So imagine you rip your pack open and then you have an immediate offer available to take.
Well, wouldn't that happen on Vivi? Like once I pop the digital or whatever, the CEO sees that it's on there
on
and
chain,
right? But imagine if you were dropping an entire
just automatically
collection, things like that, and now
it's not specific to Vivi. It can be on. Oh, it's open. It's an open protocol essentially.
Right. But say someone launches a collection on this platform, and let's say you're a flipper, right? And you're like, oh, I pulled a 101, boom, instant offer. Or, oh, I pulled top 10% rarity, boom, instant offer. Top 20%, boom, instant offer. And then maybe it's
all right, hold up. So
it's like more like trait floor type.
Yeah.
So like explain to me, like on the OpenSea side, like obviously some you guys have held some rare stuff, right?
Oh, I should be clear. If you launch on this platform, a certain portion of the mint, up to like 80%, gets allocated towards this swap pool. So what they're saying is it's a risk share between the creator and the collector, if that makes sense. So let's say 80% of the mint funds go to the swap pool, which fuels the swap offers for a certain percentage of the collection that are rare or have higher tiers.
Okay. So they're betting on themselves, but then they're sweeping their
it's
own
almost like a
floor.
refund policy.
Yeah, but wouldn't they just sweep their own floors, and then that'd be market manipulation, and then they would just have their bag, and then it would just be over?
But it's not floors, it's rares, it's things like that. Like, so does that make a little more sense?
Yeah,
essentially,
so
it's kind of like
wouldn't the company I remember that, but wouldn't the company then have all the rare ones, and then
they get burnt.
All right, you're throwing too many variables here. What if they decide not to burn?
What if they don't want to burn them?
Well, wait, the company?
Like they have a switch on that? Like
it's on chain. It's done.
I don't know about this one. So pretty much, let me break it out. So
wouldn't that make the non-rare ones rare because you're just burning all the rare ones? So wouldn't you just keep not a rare one and you should be good at the end?
Could be.
And then you wouldn't have enough.
I love
NFTs.
chaos.
I'm blown away by this. This is
Could be.
I get it. But hear me out.
If you're bullish on the project, then you maybe don't take the swap offer.
Yeah, I think that's what the thing is. It's like it's offering you a chance to refund if you don't like it, and it's tiered based on the actual rarity of your item. So like I paid 0.05 to mint this. The whole collection share is, say, just make it simple, there's 1,000, so like 5,000 total, or 500 ETH that's in their pool,
right? And
that's split between all the rarities based, so top 10% rarity might get like 2%, or like a lot of the amount, versus I think it's a cool concept, for sure, but still,
it's interesting. So I just keep an eye on it. Who knows? Or maybe there's a mechanic where they don't get burned. Let's say they do a pack drop. I'm not totally sure.
That's cool. That would be cool.
What
what
the ceiling is on that.
Turn those into like a courtyard released upper tier drop or whatever like that. Like that the cheapest card in this collection is valued at like $250 or something like that.
Sure.
Explain to me why they would have to make like a different ERC for this and not just like on the platform have the offers out. Like,
hey, I'm not the dev.
Well, it's pay grade, bro.
Hey,
I think the idea that it can be used by other people, right? Not just the colony. If it's an open source, just like
could be.
ER7, 721A is used from the Azuki collection and most of the time now because it's so more gas efficient, or they use the physical bound token or the soul bound token. Like these are all just protocols that people can use if they want to or not.
Yep, interoperable.
I think that's kind of the idea they were going for.
Yeah,
that's why
I think RSG, someone like who is into collectibles like yourself, or that particular brand of collectibles, I would definitely check it out. It's worth keeping an eye on.
Okay.
Now that we've grilled the shit out of it.
Yeah. I'll look a little bit into it. Again, it makes sense if you don't think about it.
I think it's kind of cool. Yeah. If you don't think about it.
Avoid the mid-curve take, right?
Don't think about these things.
You get a refund.
Don't think about it. Yeah, you get a refund. We, like Cryer was saying earlier, we had a project like
then you mint it again and refund it again. If you don't like it,
just
keep it.
If you don't like it, just keep doing it. But
Cryer,
you mentioned it, right? It was
Curious Addy Trading Club or whatever. You had what was it, like 6 months?
6 months. I did it. You didn't. Then you sold for higher because it went up.
Higher.
Yeah. I fucked up.
Not way higher, but I think it was like a 3x.
2 or 3x. I mean, listen, 2 or 3x right now is phenomenal. Back then, probably a little shitty, but yeah.
Yeah. No, but it was there was like a group of, I don't even remember what it was for. It was Octopus. You had I don't even remember what the idea was, but that was one of the first ones that I remember that offered a refund on the product. So like if you bought the NFT, you didn't like it, you weren't happy with what they were doing, you could refund for 0.05 whenever. So that's a really cool concept. And I think that kind of also gives viability more, right, to NFTs, right? Because that's one of the biggest complaints. It's like, oh, no refunds, no this, no that. That was one of the reasons because I think it's like a really big thing in the EU that you have to offer refunds.
Yes.
Right. So it has to be, that's like part of their government's, rules, mandates, essentially that.
Someone pointed that out for the Doodles bucket auction, which was a good bit ago. Someone was pointing through the terms of service, and there's actually an EU clause where up to 14 days after the bucket auction, you had to be eligible for refund. Now, of course, it was like mail in a letter, like it's the fucking no purchase required lottery entry, but it exists.
This actually happened as well with Gary Vee and his books, right? So what happened here was a lot of people, if they ordered on Amazon or anywhere, you just return it, you get the NFT, number one. Number two, there was a raffle. I forgot what the raffle was, but because it was a raffle, you were able to actually, for free, instead of buying the NFT, you can just send mail with a ticket. Each mail that you send, it would be a ticket type thing, and things like that. So there is like little laws like that where you could go around the corner and grab it, a little loophole. But obviously, like you said, you have to mail in something. Who's gonna just sit there and just
people who want it?
People want it, but hey, it was pretty funny.
But the same idea is like, I can't get a refund. These are expensive items. Why would I do this? Is something where, again, I think that could be a great thing for NFTs in general, just offering refunds. People then could go back to the pool and buy them at the price of whatever the mint price was, right? So like it could be a arbitration there. People, I don't know. I think that's something that is at least interesting because it gives a consumer the chance to refund. I mean, it could be a short refund.
Gives them safety. It gives them security, and we talk about that all the time.
Now, I don't know about the EU regulation. Now, with the swap protocol specifically for the colony, I think at some point there is a drop off, if that makes sense. Like the bottom 50%, 30% of the collection, there won't be a swap offer necessarily for that. Obviously,
you're shit out of luck.
There still could be a floor.
We want
price.
the rare boys, but the floor ones we don't want. So I think it's cool though. I think that's definitely concept. I mean, anytime that you're making a new protocol and putting the time into making open source stuff to people to try it, people can make new things out of that, right? I mean, that's a great example. There was this token called Lotus a while back that it was interesting. It didn't have any purpose or anything like that. It was more like just this guy was trying out a new protocol on Trader Joe. So if Trader Joe is on AVAX and Arbitrum, and there's the new protocol for their version. They changed the way that an AMM works, which is automatic market maker, which is like Uniswap or any of those contracts. They made it to where there's bins and you can choose where to allocate the liquidity pool. Okay, so like in the current price window of 10% up and down, so like say ETH is $2,000, they offered 10% of the entire liquidity of the pool between 220 and 180 to 1800, right? And that window is worth 10% of liquidity, and then the rest of the liquidity is the tokens, the total amount of tokens divided by the rest of the ETH. So there's now a floor price to exit that ERC20. So if it never does anything and it dies, you will get a solid floor value, which is 90% of the entire liquidity of the pool will be able to be reclaimed at that price, which is a really cool concept because it like prevents, like say you start a company, right? You have your funding and you're trying to make something. These are all like just giant Kickstarters. How many tokens have failed? Like millions of tokens have gone to zero. Millions.
Hey, really quick, try to get Tony on the stage.
Tony.
Yo, Tony.
Send him a little request.
We'll wreck. But the idea here is like all these tokens fail left and right, like thousands and thousands a day that go to zero. Now, if you're using this method of distribution and you actually have a viable product, like obviously for meme coins, stuff like that, whatever, that's not what the point of this. But like if you're starting a company, you can actually be like, I meet these milestones, I unlock liquidity out of the pool. But at any moment, the worst that you could sell for is 80, 90% of the total volume of ETH available that have been purchased in the LP. So it was a great example. I mean, it ultimately, technically failed, right? Like the project failed. But the price at which I bought it was the floor price. So like it essentially, I didn't lose any money, even though the project is completely dead or not being focused on. And now he's making a V2 with like a lending thing. Cause the first one was more like, he literally released it on Arbitrum with the intent. Like he said he did this all the time. He has like 15, 20 contracts. Most people literally never even look at any of his contracts. And then this one just blew up because it had a cool, novel idea. Right. So I do think that there's always these chances for people to kind of innovate the space. And I think that's why we've seen so much innovation and so much cool stuff come out. It's just because it's crazy cheap to deploy stuff. It's just like experimenting and doing cool things. And, stuff like that is born from it, which I think is so cool.
Tony, GM.
Heidi ho, neighbors.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
Hey, just feeling the vibes,
5 minute up.
Now that we're talking all about tokens and stuff, I kind of wanted to see, I don't know, I've just showed up recently, but did you guys talk about Uniswap at all? How they've put on fees recently?
We can talk about it. We have not.
Yeah, so to my understanding is that Uniswap previously has not had
any fees. They have, right? Well, I'll just break it down. So they have Uniswap. To use a Uniswap pool, an LP pool, you're paying 0.3% to the LP providers. They don't get any of that money. They essentially, the reason that they had money previously to grow and build and do stuff is because their token had a value. Uniswap token, which is just Uni. And they got value from that. They were selling it to fund stuff. Now it's not worth anything. So what's essentially happening is people are saying, well, they don't make any money. They have no revenue. And one of the biggest, I have a huge problem with this. It can go both ways, but I do have a really big problem with it because first of all, you don't have to use, it's only them. If you use their front end, if you go to Uniswap and open their product and use their tool on their computer, you get 0.15% deducted, and that goes to Uniswap Labs. And it's not a really big fee. You don't have to do it. Like you can just use 1inch or any other aggregator or, like any item, all these bots and stuff like that to get around it. Because if you use a contract level, there's no fee. So it's literally like how MetaMask, like if people use like I don't ever use MetaMask Swap, but people are like, oh yeah, it's super easy. They charge a 0.2% fee or something like that. So it is easy, whatever. It's exactly the same thing. So I don't fault them for that. I think it's fine. But on the opposite side of that, they have a token. If they just voted on a fee switch to get fees collected from the LP, which they could have done right here, instead of getting all of the money, they could have turned on the fees for the holders as well. Because that's the biggest problem with Uniswap this entire time. It's like, I've been holding this token. Yeah, you gave it to me. Whatever, it's free. I'm not complaining about it. I know that's great. But if you just had this fee switch on this entire time, you could have been making Uniswap value, and it would have been shared between everybody who holds a token and believes in your company versus now them only getting the money. So I am kind of upset that they just didn't do it for the entirety of the ecosystem, right? Like they already have an absurd amount of token. Like they're gonna, be getting revenue that's very high from it anyways. I don't know why they wouldn't appease their community members, and they probably would make more money that way personally, because they turn the fee switch on, everyone then goes buys a token. They already hold a ton of the tokens, so the value of that goes up, and they are not now actually making revenue from the tokens that they hold. So I think that was a very stupid choice personally on that side, because they could have had a chance to grow their own community and get money, and the token value would increase because everyone's been waiting for that fee switch to turn on.
So if you were like, right, and let's say the Uniswap Labs people were up here on stage, your recommendation would be to what? Like split it like 0.075 to Labs, 0.075 to
I would say just
DAO?
If you're turning on a fee switch now, and it's only the front end over there, literally just have it. That's they get the 0.15 as token holders because they already own a ton of the token. So like, yeah, it would over like the very, very beginning of it, they would be making less money, but over time, I think they'd be making way more money because the value of their token also went up, because there's no purpose. Now the token's been doing terrible because people are like, well, what's the hell the point? Like they just turned the fee switch on for themselves to make money.
But so when you say like technically make money, right? It's not like they can like pay their fucking, I mean, it's not like they can like buy shit with the Uni token really. Like it's just,
they don't buy shit with the unit. They've been selling the unit token to fund.
But you're saying like if they were to take if they were to give it to the DAO, to the token value, then wouldn't over time they would technically like be losing how many tokens they have? So it is like it would deflate.
Yeah, but that's how all companies function. Like you lose value, you sell stock to expand. There's possible, that's
you could do a buyback at some point. I don't know.
Do buyback. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, at that point, you're saying you're a security, but I mean, realistically, these are all probably securities, and just fucking agree with it and just get it on with. Like, what's the difference between it's security? It's not a security. It's just the SEC telling you to pay a fine. Okay, so if it's actually security, yeah, it's security. We're a company. We're shareholders. It's just a distributed way to do shareholding.
Now, is there? I know this sounds silly, but like, is there a Uni DAO? Like, does the Uni token have a governance value?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Okay. I mean, that's the value is there's governance, but like all of these tokens have governance value. I'm going to sell it to you later at a later date because you want. I mean, it's like a nefarious thing, anyways. It's like I want more power to mess up and conflate the DAO to what I want to do anyways, right? Like I think the governance token thing is kind of crazy. I think that's why I think the fee switch thing would be interesting, just because then it would actually align people with the DAO as well too, right? Like, because there is no value, I'm not going to hold it anymore because I'm a tiny fish. I can't do anything with it. But to the person who actually has power, they're going to eat it up. They don't need the money or whatever. So they sell it for cheap or whatever, then they have more power in it. Versus if it provides 0.15% of all trades that go through the swap goes to the token holders, now it makes that harder to manipulate. Also, like there's just a lot of benefits that I think they just really overlooked.
Well, right now, like you said, if it's only like on their site and it's not like at the contract level, like So your suggestion would be for them to do it at the contract level, so that even people using 1 inch and everything can't circumvent it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a crazy fee to. I mean, most centralized exchanges charge like much higher fees. So like you're still getting like 70% off of the centralized exchange fee, even at 0.45, right? So I mean, yeah.
Just from like a layman's point of view, like could someone just copy pasta what Uniswap is without the protocol fee and then just take their market share?
I mean, they already did that. So Sushi did that in 2019. Literally took 70% of the LPs from them because they didn't have a token, and they literally dropped Sushi and stole all of their, or vampire attacked all of their users. It went back quickly because Uniswap's continually upgrading their contract. So that was a V2 contract that happened, and now the V3, and now they're releasing V4 with this whole update.
And the Uniswap X as well.
Well, that's Uniswap. The V4 is like, I think that's technically is going to be called Uniswap X now. But the idea, the idea behind that is that, well, I lost my train of thought there. So Uniswap they had protection on the V3 and V4 for OpenGL contracts. So it wasn't open source, and they had a 5-year proprietary rights, and then that would go to open source. So the same thing I'm sure is going to happen with V4. And the reason that people didn't stick with SushiSwap is because V3 was so much more capital efficient. Like as an LP provider, I made more fees because I tightened my where I'm providing. So like I'm only providing between, like the talk about the Trader Joe thing, I'm only providing between 2,200 and 1,800. So when it's during that price, I'm getting way more fees as somebody who's providing over infinity to infinity, because that capital is all targeted at this area. Yeah, I mean, that's why V3 took off. That's why like SushiSwap LPs are, way down volume TVL wise. So, I do think that I'm sure they're going to have some really cool updates. That's their forte for sure. Like they definitely own the AMM like growth, right? They've been definitely innovating the shit out of all of those. So I do think that I don't think it's I don't think it's crazy to charge 0.45 to get better liquidity. Like I'd rather pay it to somebody than in slippage, right? Like what's the difference? Like would it rather be like lost in the ether and then fucking Nev fucking Subway guy takes it all?
Jared?
Or would you rather be fucking Jared? We want Jared to have it, or do you want all of Uniswap to have it, right? Like I think that's such a very short-sighted approach, personally.
Fair point.
All right, gang. I think we're coming up on the 1.5 hour mark, so we may need to wind things down for the day.
I always try to me ranting for
hours. I love it. That's what the Roundtabloooors is all about.
Yeah, laying the smackdown on Uniswap. Come on, guys.
Full of rants, full of good times.
For sure.
No, this has been awesome. No, I've loved the conversation on Uniswap, on real world assets, RWAs, swap protocols, collectibles, all that stuff. I think we're gonna have some interesting stuff. I mean, who knows? It seems like this is kind of cool, right? Like there was a time, like kind of during previous bulls, where it was like there's like a week goes by and it's like, oh my gosh, so much has happened. Like I genuinely have that feeling like, oh, next week, what are we gonna what are we talking about?
What is going to be happening? Yeah, we've been on our side with Nerd, me and RSG doing Nerd ST Radio. We had been doing 2 a week, and that's like, what do we talk about? Like what do we even do now? So we had been doing 1, but if we start getting some info back and we start getting back in the bull, we might get
rock and roll.
Time to rock and roll, baby.
Let's go,
that
baby.
goes 2 weeks.
No, that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. And you guys have been doing great work with your Nerd FT Radio podcast interviews. I know you guys did Klon recently, Luca Nets recently. Those are great episodes. Yeah. So could definitely recommend anybody go check those out.
We had some good guys. We had Psych as well. He was really good recently too. We had the Parallel team recently. So we had a lot of good ones recently, which I think one of the biggest benefits of the bear market is you actually get to talk to the cool kids, right? And you're not just like, let's talk to this random guy that has a random project that
we're not slumming it up.
talk with the big dogs. But yeah, I think they all had good points and they all had really good topics to discuss about. So, and it's more about like the actual whole ecosystem of NFTs. So it's not just related to the cool cat or just the penguin, right? I think they a lot of the discussion was the broader NFT landscape and what they can provide as companies that are pushing the space forward, right? So yeah, definitely check those out. We got some good, you got Doodle's information, Dude lifts. What you got going on over there?
Oh, I mean, nothing too crazy.
You guys have your TGID and stuff like that. Ones,
yeah. So yeah, we'll shill it. We'll shill it. So we do Ink Tank Monday nights. So that is a discussion just about kind of all things Doodles, but then more specifically with the incubator, which is the community treasury. So the incubator has been seeing a ton of action since it's been rebranded from the Doodle Bank. Lots of proposals passed, and so we're there to kind of give commentary.
Love that.
Suggestion, have people up who have proposals, hear from the council sometimes. So a lot of cool stuff. And then we've been doing a bi-weekly show with a crew from the Rug Radio Asia Alliance. So it's Puka Rainbow and Maeve Knows. And so that one's called the Silk Road. And so essentially the idea is like we meet on the Silk Road and swap info, right?
Swap info.
Yeah. And so they give us
some info about their Chinese, like the Asian stimulus and the Chinese stimulus package and stuff like that. That'd be a great idea.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of
stuff for next week.
That's what it's the geographic arbitrage that we're basically committing, and so there's a lot of really interesting stuff happening over there, and they're able to give us a window on that. And we hope that we can do that in reverse. So that's been a lot of fun.
Very cool. You got anything, RSG? Close out? He's on his phone. He's playing Marvel Snap, probably.
Classic.
Dude, Tony P, you got anything?
It's good. I just a big bear hug for everybody.
Oh, I like that.
We just got to send some love out there. I think this little bit of action is good. It just reminds you, keep on pushing on, keep creating content. We will be here when everybody comes back.
Let's do it, baby.
Survive.
200 days. 200 more days until the happening event, folks.
Perfect.
And I think that's when it starts.
The countdown is on. All right, everybody. Yeah, thank you for stopping by for Roundtabloooors and hearing us prattle on about all this amazing things we're living through together. So have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Later.